4 different years, you were nominated Most Popular Wrestler of the Year by WCW Magazine. Good to have you on Huntley Street with us, that's for sure.
Thanks for having me.
And I got to ask, because, you know, I'm a guy, and these are the type of questions that a guy wants to know. Tell us some of your highlight matches, like those ones that really were a pinnacle of your career, where a large portion of that 500 million people were watching, perhaps. Tell me about one of those matches.
Well, you know, I have a couple matches, really, and the first one would have to be against Ric Flair, the Nature Boy Ric Flair.
Okay.
And that was back in 1988, and it was a live show called Clash of Champions, and I was like an up-and-comer kind of a guy, and it was like a make-or-break situation for me, and I had this big world title match with Ric Flair, and that match really put me on the map. It was a 45-minute commercial-free on television, first time in history for any sporting event to do that. And so that match really put me on the map. And then after that, it would probably be Hulk Hogan, Starrcade of 1997. And we broke attendance records all over the country, all over the world. And the buy rate on the pay-per-view was huge. And, you know, that was a record. And so those two matches.
Now, you're a big fella. You're what, 6'3", a little over 250 pounds when you were wrestling?
Right.
But Hulk Hogan, he was a big man, wasn't he?
Yes. Hulk is a big man. And
I mean, maybe that's why they called him Hulk. I don't know. But he was big.
No, he is big, and he has a presence about him.
Oh, I remember he'd kiss his biceps.
Yeah.
I won't do that for you today. I can't reach them. They don't go up high enough here. But he would do this type of thing. The biggest arms in the world, he'd say. And you were taking him on head to head.
That's right. That's right. We were entertaining people.
Okay.
Worldwide.
Okay, now you lead me into my next question then. You're talking about entertaining people.
Yeah.
What makes a good wrestler? What percentage actor? What percentage athlete? What percentage wrestler?
You know what? That's a good question. I've never heard it put quite like that. You know, the percentages are high. You have to be an athlete, and you have to be an actor. You have to know the psychology and the timing of wrestling. Yeah. And it's too hard to answer that question. But if you've got two guys in the ring that have all those qualities, it makes for really good stuff. And as far as what makes somebody popular, it's all those things, and you know, the fans identify with somebody or they don't. Yeah. And so they sort of pick and choose who's going to be popular and who's not.
Yeah. Now, you had some signature moves, didn't you? Where people would just anticipate. They would be on the edge of their chair saying, when's he going to do it? Yeah. What were those signature moves?
Well, I had a couple of them. The Scorpion Deathlock, that was a leg hold.
Oh, I love the sound of that. Scorpion Deathlock.
Oh, the Scorpion Death drop has a good sound too, though. That was a good one too, because I'd grab the guy like this and drop him on the back of his head. Ooh. Pretty cool stuff.
You know, we do have a producer here that might be willing to let you do a Scorpion Deathlock on him. I mean, George McEachran, we often call him in.
Yeah.
Like, I was glad the day they didn't have a ring set up, because, you know, a few months ago I was taking on a Chicago Bull in basketball, and they had the hoop set up, you know, in the court, in the studio, and I was taking him on one-on-one. It didn't go too well. I checked this morning before we got going here, and there was no cage in the studio or a ring, and I was glad to hear that.
Well, that's a good thing about wrestling, is we don't need a cage or a ring, because I've been on lots of sets like this and destroyed lots of sets like this.
You've destroyed?
Yeah.
Well, we won't get you too riled up, but maybe we could find a volunteer to let you do the Stinger Splash. I don't know. Tell us what the Stinger Splash was.
Well, the Stinger Splash is where you just, you know, you have your opponent, you know, dazed and confused, and you throw him into the turnbuckle and back up and launch yourself and just land right on top of him.
You just kind of fly and
that's it.
You land on him. Take him out.
That's
Good deal. I think George is cowered away in the corner here. He doesn't want to volunteer for that, our producer here, but it would be interesting to see that.
We could show the flying toe hold, too. That's
the flying toe hold.
Pretty treacherous, you know.
That sounds dangerous. Man. But hey, I saw some of the moves in here on the DVD, some of the highlights with Hulk Hogan. Randy the Macho Man Savage, and all these guys are in here, some of those highlights, but you also have a lot of very meaningful life encounters where things start to turn, and you become very vulnerable as well in your book and your DVD. Take us back. I know your brother had a big influence on your life, and others spoke into your life, but even during the time of all your success and you're at the top of wrestling, you still recognized out there is a God. Bring us back.
Yeah, well, you know, He was just planting seeds in my life, and I gave my life to the Lord August of '98, and in '96 and '97, right around those years, and most of '98, when I was at the very peak of my wrestling career, I just, you know, something was desperately wrong, because I was at a point where I just found that every part of my life was out of control. Here I was making all this money, I had all this power, all this fame, and at the very top of the professional wrestling world, but every part of my life was out of control, and that meaning my family. I had 2 boys at the time, Garrett and Steven, and I felt like I was going to lose them. I was going to lose my wife. I was going to be ultimately end up divorced, and it got so bad, you know, that I ultimately turned to prescription painkillers and alcohol, just to be able to sleep at night. I had a lifestyle on the road that was pretty radical, and the choices that I made and the consequences of the things that I had to deal with, it was just too much for me, and I found I couldn't sleep at night. And so I turned to drugs and alcohol just to be able to escape. And
so your persona that you presented, and here it is again, have a look at this. This is Sting here. You're painted up every night. I know you went through several different transitions. You had some other names earlier on as a wrestler in different looks. But this drew a lot of attention and a lot of people and a lot of fans. Everyone wanted a piece of you, I'm sure. Yeah,
this one here, there were 40 million people a week watching me during that time. And yeah, everybody wanted a piece of me. There were 400 companies worldwide making a variety of products with that likeness all over it.
Action figures, right?
Action figures, sleeping bags, lunch boxes, you name it, everything. So yeah, I was being pulled in a lot of different directions at the time also.
And pulled away from your family, as you mentioned, because you were doing a lot of road time.
Yeah, a lot of road time, but you know, that's the one thing I can look back, I'm thankful for, that I was home during those times.
Okay.
Yeah. I was working a lot, and I did have times when I'd be gone for 4, 5, 6, 7 days at a clip, but the old days of 20, 30 days in a row being gone, that ended.
Now, is this your first time in Canada sharing your story?
Yes.
Well, welcome to Canada.
Thank you.
Now, you were up here before for some fights.
Oh, yeah.
And you said that you remember seeing David Mains's face.
You know what? I do. As soon as I saw him come up on the screen, I said, oh man, I've seen him, and I thought, you know what? It very well could have been, you know, wrestling in the Sky Dome or something, and checked into the hotel and finished a big show, and you know, go back to the room and try to escape, and go like this with the clicker, and I know I saw your dad. Oh, yeah. I know I did. So, you know, it's funny too, because that was one of the seeds that God planted in my life.
God has
even
a plan
that seed
for every person to reach them.
That's right. That's right.
You know?